Hello, I am Naresh UC. My roll number is 29. I am giving the micro teaching class for the online refresher course in multilingualism, languages, literature, and cultural studies for the Baba Sahib Ambedkar Training Center, Marathwada, Maharashtra. So today I am dealing with the topic that is cultural studies. Let us see first what is cultural studies. So, cultural studies definition is an academic field that analyzes contemporary cultures in order to derive meaning from them. It is a field of open dialogue on many subjects that might not be acceptable conversations topics. Uh, and it politically and critically discusses and observes some of cultural exclusions, injustice, and prejudice. Cultural studies aims to enhance and celebrate cultural experiences, to enjoy culture by analyzing it and its social meaning. Cultural studies helps us to understand ourselves and those around us by exploring a wide range of institutions, media, concepts, and formations such as in TV and multiculturalism and cultural heritage. So cultural studies deals with a cultural as part of everyday life. Because of that, it is an evolving field that changes and develops with a culture itself. So today, cultural studies as a discipline is becoming more and more global because after all its study of culture. Culture itself a global. Culture itself a global because everyone has it in one form or another form. Culture itself is being affected by globalization as people of the world are drawn to each other's cultures as they trades goods and information. Differences are accepted by variation between different cultures and those dividers are studied. And further, a variety of topics and histories brought into this discipline, studies discipline, through globalization also. Studying cultural studies might feel like being an intellectual tourist dropping into topics which may be enriching in their sheer exit, which has little interest or responsibility. So, what is the culture today? Culture is not a thing or even a system. It's a set of transactions and a process and mutations, practices, technologies, institutions, out of which thing and even events like movies and TV serials, reality shows are produced to be experienced, lived out, and given meaning and value of different ways within the network of differences and mutations from which they emerged to start with. For cultural studies, today Cultural objects are simultaneously events and experiences produced out of it and thrown back into a social force field constituted unevenly by power flows, statues, hierarchies, and opportunities. Culturals travel across geographical borders, they merge and separate, they cross and they disrupt political and even social divisions, and also sometimes strengthen them. Capital and fashion shape and flow through different cultural forms. Some genres become a specialized extreme, others sweep the world. Because culture no longer refers to specific set or specific set of things, and because cultural markets are so pervasive, it can be just about anything. So cultural studies does not cover culture only with equal attention to all its modes. It has a tendency to neglect, for instance, religion, food, sports, especially that part which is family based and of most interest to the middle aged, such as a home improvement and gardening. For different reasons, it has a neglected high culture itself. So, what are the methods to study the culture? So, what kind of concepts and practices should we bring to our conceptualization? It may be the political critique or a close readings of text. It may be the like including a songs, recent songs and TV shows as well, novels, text. It is difficult to say such more about a cultural studies method, except that it, in a very general way, it is both of a theoretical and empirical, that is experimental discipline. Method can be viewed as the art of cultural studies can be seen as a path of reasoning, since it provides the shared values of a common framework which we can recognize that we are in dialogue. It continually examines its own development and processes. Culture is better studied by providing evidence and citations for arguments, referring to well recognized general concepts, implicitly placing one work within the disciplinary field, exposing one's writing to debate, and engaging in debate with others. Cultural studies deals mainly with a terms such as a popular culture, racism, globalization, words which have good equivalents in various languages. A characteristics, a feature of cultural studies is that it has a commitment to celebrating or critiquing cultural forms and producing accounts that can be fed back into cultural production and are to producing new connections between various cultural forms of the people. Another feature of the cultural studies is that self-reflective. Self-reflective, it needs continually, critically to examine itself and in particular its relations to the educational system and cultural institutions. Is cultural studies is better regarded as a critical practice which have helped to generate a discipline itself. And if we see the globalization of cultural studies means that it is positioned differently within academic institution around the world. In Latin America, cultural studies takes a relatively little interest in multiculturalism and more interest in concept of such as hybridity. In Asia, culture is studied largely in language or social sciences departments. Now, the cultural studies it studies in English department or language department in the universities, even in the degree colleges. And the traditional topics of the cultural studies are less apparent in third world countries because questions and concerns about westernization, the impact of a westernization and modernization and autonomous national identity and nation building are dominant in this field. And genres and genealogies is in cultural studies. The term cultural studies is used in a variety of ways. Different nations have developed different kinds of cultural studies. For example, British cultural studies, that is, cultural studies started in the UK and emerged from a center that popularizing quality literature at the University of Birmingham and started as a form of literary criticism. And hegemonies, the culturalism, these are the words coined and practices, expectations it has made. And representations in a cultural studies is the way that particular social groups are represented, especially in the media and social political gains. And the ethnography, that is the analysis of how culture is used to understand by actual individuals and groups. It takes in two forms, say for example, in a quantitative and a qualitative. In quantitative, which involves large scale surveys and statistical analysis, and in qualitative, which involves interviews with a small groups or individuals. As a discipline is globalized today, that is a cultural studies is globalized, and as a universalizing theories have become increasingly difficult to sustain. The British culture studies has tended to retreat into culture of its own nation and state also. So nowadays there are many important figures and theories of even in the cultural studies. So these are the regarding the background of the cultural studies as I have presented in this micro teaching class. Thank you.